Hi everybody, we're doing class number 7. So as I'm studying, I realized we're just in the introduction. I didn't even realize that. We didn't even start Shaar Habitachon. We're just talking about the introduction, just so you guys know how interesting the introduction is. So imagine the real thing. So again, I want to review what we spoke the last week, that the Rabbeinu Bachai, who wrote the Shaar Habitachon, he talks about an alchemist. An alchemist, of course, is not someone real, but back then when he lived in the medieval times, it's what everyone dreamt of becoming, because for them it was what would bring them peace of mind, abundance, wealth. So they all dreamt to become that alchemist. So he brings that to explain us that someone who dreams to become an alchemist puts all his energy and power and trust in alchemia, or in something other than God. And he brings that to say that even if someone thinks that they're going to reach peace of mind and tranquility and wealth, they're going to have a lot of problems. And he brings 10 big issues that they're going to have, that if someone puts their trust in Hashem, they won't have that.
Oh, okay.
They won't have that. Someone who puts their trust in Hashem will not have that. And how putting your trust in God is really what you should have and not the opposite. So the first thing he brings, who remembers what's the first thing he brings? I need to review. I'm asking you because I'm like, I need
tools.
Exactly. The first things he brings is the alchemist needs tools and resources, right? He's always dependent on his tools and resources, and if he doesn't have his tools and resources, then he cannot do his job. The Rabbeinu Bachai says someone who has bitachon doesn't need any tools or resources. He knows that whatever happens, God will provide. If he's out of whatever job he's doing, if there's no more resources or there's no more tools, then God will provide a different way. Just like the story we brought with the material, right? They didn't have any more material. In the end, it worked out because this person trusted in God. The second thing he brings, he says the alchemist can get sick from the fumes, right? There's a lot of chemical working, and you can get sick from the fumes. His job is a high risk job that he can lose his life or get really sick from it. Someone who has bitachon, it's not that he's not gonna, his jobs don't have risk. I'm sure
he's not afraid,
but he's not afraid of that. God will protect him, that his job will not harm him, that he will be fully protected from Hashem,
and always joyful, you said,
and take any negative things that come to him with joy. Number 3, the alchemist is super secretive, because what he's doing is not really so legal. He's transforming regular metals and making them into gold. It's not so clean. So he's always secretive about what he's doing, and he doesn't want to share with people. Therefore, he doesn't trust anyone. Therefore, he has no one to ask for advice if he's stuck in something. And it's a really hard way of living life in secrecy. While someone who has bitachon surrounds himself with people that he can trust, ask for advice, and is not afraid to share his secret of success, which is bitachon, which is relying, because he wants other people to have that success. So there's nothing to hide when you're someone who trusts in God. Again, all this you can compare, you can bring it, apply it to example of life. People who work, who's sure they found the way of making fast money, and it's not so legal. So you think you're getting peace of mind, but in the end you're getting more harm. You're harming yourself way more than just doing things the right way. If you trust in Hashem, you don't need to do anything illegally or anything secretive or anything that's not so clean in order to make money. The next thing, the fourth reason, and we learned that last week,
he's constantly anxious about enough and not enough.
He's
Where it
constantly,
can be
yes.
stolen from.
He's constantly anxious.
pris des bonnes notes.
He's scared.
Pris des bonnes notes, Sterna.
Very good. He's scared of making too much and someone stealing. He's scared of not having enough and not making the money, not having the right. He's constantly in an anxious mode, not knowing if he has too much or too little, or constantly in anxiety. Okay, just think of that, of
Anxious.
certain
Yeah.
situation of people who have a lot of money and who are scared, who don't have that tranquility because they're scared that people will steal for them.
Yeah.
They're scared about their future. They're always anxious.
Missing or, yeah.
Yes.
Not
So
missing,
someone who has bitachon does not have that anxiety, has full trust,
peace of mind also.
has a full trust that Hashem, He's the one who will provide him in the way that He provides him. Just like He provides for a fetus in a womb, just like He provides for a chick in an egg,
Ah oui.
just like He provides
For
for
fish.
a bird in the sky, just like He provides for a fish in the water and the smallest of ant. And the Rabbeinu Bachaya brings these 5 examples not just for no reason. Everything has a meaning. We learned how the fetus, nothing could enter it, right? It's provided. It has a
shell?
It has
A shell?
no. What
The
feeds it?
placenta.
The placenta, and it gives it exactly what it needs in order for it to grow. And as soon as it's done, the baby is born. The chick has exactly what he needs in his shell, and as soon as he's ready to grow, he goes out. That can be an example for us. We are all born with exactly what we need, with our placenta or our eggshell. And sometimes we go through hardships in life. That means we broke out of our egg and now we're ready for a different kind of being provided in a
Growth.
different way.
Okay.
The bird, the fish, the ant, right? The air, sea, and land. Those birds, their food is not found in the sky. That's where they're most of the time, but God makes sure that they have their food no matter what. They're never starving. Fish in the sea, there's so much danger. It's under the water. They find their food. They're provided for. You'll never see a hungry fish, or you'll never see an overfed fish. They have exactly what they need.
But a lion, yes. Can
And
be
again,
very,
And again, it brings a little ant,
ça,
the
je
most
l'ai retenu.
frail ant, and it's also provided for, because Hashem provides for everyone, and we have to have that in mind, that He will provide for us. We shouldn't be afraid. And He brings in the lion. The lion, He brings in a pasuk that a lion, you can find that he's hungry. Out of all the species of all the creation of the world, the lion you would think is the last one to be hungry.
Mhm.
But what everything in nature is to teach us a lesson. And what's the lesson we learn from that? Is that someone who's strong and mighty and could hunt and can do whatever they need, they have all the strength they need to provide for themselves, they can be hungry. If they only rely on their strength,
Ah, c'est ça.
on their capabilities, on what they have to provide for themselves, they can be hungry. Not the ones who are frail and dependent
Humble.
and know who provides for them. You have to know that even if it sounds repetitive, the Rabbeinu Bachaya does not repeat anything. Everything he brings is to give us a new insight. So now we're going to look inside, and it's going to seem like it's repetitive, but it's to teach us something new, and this is what we're going to try to find. What is the new thing that Rabbeinu Bachaya is teaching us in class 7, in this. So you can open to page
Ah, j'ai fini.
So in a way,
19. Yeah.
My book. The Israelites in the desert were like in making, or people in making.
Exactly. Everything
They
that
were
the
like an egg.
everything that the
chicken
Jews
egg.
went through was just in preparation for the real life. And they didn't want to leave their cocoon. They thought but that's why they got punished, because God said that's not real life, to be fed, to be protected, to wash your clothes. No, now you have to face, you have to work, you have to, but
Action.
you have to remember that just like in the desert you were fed and taken care of, The same God is still taking care of you.
Yeah.
It's just a different way.
You have to work
in
for
a
that.
different way. And that's the examples of the egg, the fetus, the bird. There's different ways that God provides for you. And he can decide what way he provides for you. That we don't know. But he will provide for you. You have to make the keli. You have to make the vessel.
Yeah.
So page 19. We're going to read inside. והחמישי, שבעל הכימיה תחת יראת ופחד על מלאכתו מן הגדול ועד הקטן שבעם. The fifth reason is that a person who has how a person who has bitachon is superior than the alchemist. Is the alchemist is in a constant state of terror, of like terrified, fear, and dread due to his occupation. He is afraid of all people, from the most important man in the nation to the least important man. So over here it seems very repetitive. It seems like we spoke about this already, that he has fear, right?
Yeah,
we spoke about the
first,
fear.
yeah,
What
yeah.
did we say? In number 2, we said
He's
that
anxious.
he's afraid that people will tell on
Steal from him.
well, no, not that fear. It says one of them is he's afraid that people will tell on him to the king that he's doing something illegal, so he doesn't fear anyone. So we spoke about that.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
also spoke about the anxious.
That's number 2.
But the anxious, the number 4, is that he's afraid of having too much or too little. He's never satisfied. He never knows how much he should have. He's afraid of people stealing from him. So over here, what is he afraid of? Not only what is he afraid of, what is the new thing that he's bringing? So something important to realize, he brings in 3 words of fear. He brings techat, yira, vapachad. Terror, fear, and another kind of fear, scared.
Maybe anxiety. No, okay.
Yeah, you can say anxious. So what new idea is he bringing here? So he brings the word techat. We have to understand what the word techat is. For those who know Hebrew, techat is also tachat, is under. Well, no.
Sorry. Ami m'insultait toujours avec ça.
I knew you were going to laugh at that, Dolly.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
For her reaction.
The word...
Immature.
So techat is the word under, which means that the fear is going to control him to the point that he's under his fear. He's completely controlled and terrorized and controlled by that fear. What does the word terror means? Terror or terrorist. Why do we say there was a terrorist attack? What do terrorists want to do? Terrorists want to install fear in people that even if nothing happens, they still have control over them. So they succeed, even if they didn't, let's say, kill all the people they wanted. Their success is that people are afraid. Let's say they explode buses or they explode planes. People are afraid to take planes.
Yeah.
People are afraid to take buses. People, they have control. They put in terror. They put in fear. Techas comes from the word under, which means putting someone completely under and controlling them with fear. The emotion of fear is the most destructive of all fear. Of all emotions, sorry.
Yeah.
It's paralyzing.
It paralyzes, it breaks a person. I was listening to a podcast and someone was saying how she would have panic attacks.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say they have panic attacks. But
vrai,
a real panic attack
Yeah.
is when someone has this fear so strong that they're paralyzed. They can't move. They think they're dying. They can't breathe. They feel like they're dying. This is what terror is. And this fear is the curse of someone who doesn't have bitachon. Is the person who puts their trust in alchemist, in something other than God, in something that they think is going to bring them peace of mind. Instead, they're going to have terrorizing fear. This fear that breaks them, that puts them under, that controls them. And that is a different kind of fear. Do you see the new thing that he's bringing in here?
Ouais, c'est subtil, mais oui, bien sûr.
Yes, it's very subtle. Exactly. We
So
learned.
it can be humans also, of manipulators and...
It could be humans. It could be
les pervers
anything.
narcissiques et tout ça. C'est une forme de terreur qu'ils installent.
For sure. But again, if you have bitachon,
You're not afraid?
it's not only you're not afraid. People cannot have control over you. Fear cannot have control over you. Cannot break you. Cannot put you down, and cannot paralyze you. It's a work. It's a work to do.
It's a big
And
work.
this is where the Tanya says, Moach
Tanya?
shalit ala lev.
Ouais.
What's the antidote to techat, to that fear that brings you under, that controls you? Is when your moach shalit ala lev. When you take your moach, your mind,
Over the heart.
and you take ideas of Torah, and you bring that over your heart. You let that control instead of your emotion controlling your mind. Instead of your emotion, your fear, right? No, it's not easy to say, but again, these tools are there. It's very reachable. It's very reachable. Honestly, I had an experience. I'm going to share them a little. I don't know what to. Anyways, I'm going to share. Basically, we just sold our van.
Yeah.
We had, since 2016, an old van. I wanted to get rid of it, and I put it for a very low price because it had a few issues. But I had a garagist who came. He gave me a down payment, and he said he's going to come on Sunday to pick it up. Yesterday. Friday, this guy who's been contacting me for a while, he calls me. I guess I gave him my phone number, and he's like, I'm going to take the car. Wait, because he saw I was pending. He's like, I'm going to take the car.
Don't
Wait for
sell
me.
it.
I'm going to pay full price. Don't sell it. I said, but I gave a down payment. He's like, it doesn't matter. I didn't know what to do. I spoke to my husband. He's like, look, the other guy's a garage. This guy seems like he really wants it. I asked him. He's not a garage. And he's ready to pay full price. Maybe we'll go with him. He comes right before Shabbat. I regretted it. I'm in the car with two Arabs, okay, talking Arabic because he wants to test drive the car. I was behind there, and I'm like, what did I do to myself?
Whoa.
I was like,
Alone?
and alone because my husband was busy, and I was the one doing the sale. But suddenly this thing of bitachon came, and I said, no one is able to harm me. No one is able to harm me. I am not afraid. And they tried it, and they lied to me. Like, he said he would take it full price. He, offered less than what the other person... Anyways, I was happy to get rid of them.
Quoi, il t'a donné le bon prix finalement ou moins que ce
No,
qu'il
he
avait
said
dit?
he wants to pay me less. He lied. It was a
T'aurais
whole...
dû lui dire non, c'est bon, je vais donner un down payment, non?
Whatever. No, I said, he's like, I said the other guy's offering more. I'm not interested. But the point was not that. It's what helped me in this situation... And they were trying to manipulate. I think they thought I was some French Canadian who they can get away with. They did not. But what helped me was this thought that I am not afraid of them. They are not gonna, even if I regret that I put myself in that situation. I hope never to put myself in that situation. But the words of the Shaar Habitachon came in mind that no one could harm me. That even if they try to harm me, they're not going to harm me. Nothing bad is going to happen. And I'm not going to do anything wrong. I'm going to keep to what's right, what's my values. And I was happy that they left. And why am I saying that? Is that when you have bitachon, not only don't you have fear, but I felt they were afraid of me. They saw that they could, they saw that they couldn't. They tried to negotiate, but they saw it wasn't like people feel it. When you have a trust in Hashem, is that people don't even try to manipulate you. They don't even try to hurt you because they feel that strength and that connection that you have to something. They don't know what it is, but to Hashem. So, fear is destructive. Fear is destructive. It destroys a person. It's something that our society suffers from today. Everyone talks about anxiety. Anxiety. Why? Why do we have anxiety? Why do we have anxiety? Because we fill, F-I-L-L, fill our mind with ideas from Instagram, from Facebook, from social media that are negative, that put you down, that fill you up with fears, right? You hear people, whatever it is, but you have to let go. You have to let go of those You have to stop putting your trust, right, when people are going crazy for their health, so they're going to put their trust fully in all these natural remedies or in all these different things. But you have to let go of you wanting to put your trust in these things and knowing that in the end, God is in control, not you. The more you think you're in control, the more fear you're going to have. The more you think you can control your circumstance, whether it's in finances, in health, in strength, in whatever it is, there's so many things and there's so many ideas, and you see it. Society bombards you with workout. You want to be strong, workout. You want to be healthy, eat healthy. Puts you these ideas that you can control your life.
You still have to have a certain control over your life, because if not, there's no
For sure.
discipline,
And
there is no,
that's
where, if you just think that God is going to keep
so
me
that's
healthy,
not
will
so I'm
work
not
out.
talking about your actions. I'm talking about what is your intention. When you eat healthy and when you exercise, is it because you think, is it because you think that this is what's going to get you healthy? Or is it, or do you know that really Hashem is in control?
He has the last words.
Hashem wants you to. It says, the Torah says you have to be healthy. The Torah says, en somchim ala nes. You cannot rely on miracles. The Torah says to create a vessel. You have to create vessels in order to bring the bracha. That I'm not against.
I know.
But it's the intention of being so into something because you think this is what is going to save you. That's what's going to bring you more fear and more anxiety. If you're suffering from fear and anxiety, try to think, what is it that I'm putting my energy in? What intention am I having when I'm doing what I'm doing? Do I really believe that Hashem has full control over me, just like the fetus is fully, he's not afraid. The baby in the womb is not afraid. By the way, my brother had a baby boy this morning. Shalom had a baby boy. So, yes. So that fetus, that chick is not afraid, is completely dependent on God and knows that he has whatever he needs to be fed. We have to have that same trust in Hashem. And that trust is what's going to remove all those fear and all those anxiety, which if someone else puts their trust in something else, they will be full of fear and they will be controlled and they will be full of terror. There's a story of Daniel. He was a prophet, I believe, who was taken in prison by Nebuchadnezzar.
No.
Prophet in the time of the Babylonians, I believe. Nebuchadnezzar, the king. And the king knew he was someone special, and he took him as an advisor. He took him as someone high, and I forgot why he punished him, but he threw him in the lion's den. That was then what they would do to the people, and he threw him in the lion's den to be eaten by lions. And what happens?
The
lions didn't touch him. Why? And let me read inside what it says. Va'boter be'elokim yirau hagdolim v'nichbadei b'nei adam af hachayot va'avanim mevakshim retzono kemo shenemor b'mizmor. Conversely, a person who trusts in God will be held in awe by the great and respectable people. Even the animals and the stones will seek to do his will. Here in this story we see Daniel had such strong faith in God that when he threw him, the lion didn't feel fear. A lion, any animals in general, attack when they feel fear. He had no fear. He trusted in God that the lions, it didn't work. This thing of the lions attacking did not work. Of course, it's something we're not there. But it's just for us to realize that by the more we put our trust in God, not only will people, it says that the people will hold you in great respect. Even the animals, even the stones will move aside. And that I can't bring you a story. I don't have a story, but this is what he says. And I'm sure when he wrote it, he was thinking of probably a time that it happened.
You need an excess of confidence when you're not afraid of, like, let's say, par exemple, je sais pas, quelque chose que tu dois subir, ok, je sais pas, il n'y a pas d'exemple qui me vient en tête, mais tu es comme, oh, j'ai même pas peur, moi je sais qu'Hachem, il va me protéger de ça.
So what do you think? So
I'm
I always had that
asking,
question.
I'm
Where
asking,
is
you know?
it?
Yeah.
Where is the limit where you're kind of not
Arrogant,
realistic?
un peu,
No,
tu
not
vois.
arrogant. I
C'est
wouldn't
pas-
say it's
ben,
arrogant.
arrogant parce que là, si face à tous les dangers, tu as jamais peur, ou même pas les dangers, mais les inconforts de la
So
vie,
first of
n'importe
all,
quoi.
again, there's something very powerful. It says "En somchim al hanes." You don't put
Ouais.
yourself in danger.
Non,
Don't put
ça,
yourself
c'est
in
vrai.
danger.
Mais mettons, tu te retrouves à un moment donné.
But that's the work. I'm telling you. Believe
you
me,
know,
when I was in
let's
that
say
car,
tu as une entrevue et tu es stressé.
I was
tout
in
ça, like,
when I
c'est
was
un
in that
excess.
car. I'm like,
Yeah.
these two Arabs can just kidnap me, and that's it.
never
I'm
see us
gone.
again.
It was the thoughts that went through my mind. I can't
C'est
tell
grave,
you.
au
Believe
Canada,
me,
c'est
I was
très
like,
grave.
why did I put myself in this situation?
Wow.
Hopefully, I won't do it again. But I had the fear, and I don't think. I didn't allow the fear, just thanks to what I'm teaching. I didn't allow that fear to take over me, and so this is just a small situation,
yeah.
but it can be in bigger situation, and I think it is very healthy. It's not about your circumstance, it's your attitude in the circumstance. How are you going to react to what is happening to you? Are you going to be afraid? Because if you're afraid, that means you put your trust in other things but God, or are you going to fully trust God and say, no, I'm not afraid. I believe that this is for the good. We're going to read on because it's going to answer your question.
Sure.
So he brings in a pasuk from the Tehillim that says, Yoshev b'seser elyon ad acharito ve'omer b'sheshet tzarot yatzilecha u'b'sheva lo yiga b'chara b'rav patcha mimavet ad sov ha'inyan. In the psalm of he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High. So this is a psalm. I went to read it. It said that someone who believes in God someone who believes in God dwells in the most highest place. Why is he protected? Because he's with God in the most highest place. So nothing bad can happen. He's untouchable, exactly. His bitachon brings him to reside, for his neshama maybe, to reside in a really high place that he's fully protected. That means when things that are bad happen to him, it doesn't affect him because he's protected.
It was only for tzaddikim or high.
Well, tzaddikim are
tzaddikim
have that
Il
bitachon.
suffit d'avoir juste le bitachon pour être... Wow, c'est magique.
Some tzaddikim were like
Ouais.
some we talked about last year was imprisoned and came out finally.
Ouais. Je me rappelle pas de cette histoire.
What? Which story?
Mais,
Dans les histoires du Tanya.
Yes, the Alter Rebbe was in
Ouais.
prison.
C'est ça. Et il est sorti de prison. Il n'a
Yeah.
pas.
And he was in a prison that he was supposed to die. Like it was the final place,
wow.
the worst dungeons of
Mhm.
Russia. But I guess we can also reach this place if we have bitachon. Of course, tzaddikim. This is where they dwell. This is, in a way, we can understand why they're protected, why they have these stories, these crazy stories. There's the Baal Shem Tov, when he was a little kid. His father passed away when he was young, and he told him, my son, before passing away, he said, my son, do not be afraid of nothing, don't fear anything but God. And this little boy obviously was not a regular little boy, and he took his words. And eventually, I think a few months later, his mother died, so he found himself an orphan, and people took him to live by them, but he needed his own space. He needed to be alone, and every day he would walk to the forest, I think in Russia, and it was a dangerous forest. There was grizzly bears and whatever there was there, and he would go there, and apparently no animals would attack him, nothing. And one day he was in the forest meditating, and he heard someone praying, and he sees like an older man praying, and he goes over to him. He waits till he finished to pray, and he goes over to him, and the man is shocked, and he says, how is a little boy in the forest? Where's your father? He said, I don't have a father. What about your mother? I don't have a mother. And he says, oh, who was your father? I see you're someone special. So he told him who he was, his father. This was a hidden tzaddik, but he saw that this boy wasn't afraid of anything and was protected, and eventually he took him with him. But this is a story, another, of the tzaddikim that dwell in high places. I don't know if we're able to reach those places, but we can work on our bitachon. I believe, I'm telling you, this book helps me in my day-to-day life, because I'm not free of anxiety, okay? I don't know if we all suffer from anxiety, but I definitely do.
In a way, everybody has.
We all have that.
And
sure. Learning these words, you realize that there is a way of escaping that's not taking medicine, and not escaping, but not facing that anxiety. So
yeah.
And also, and it says you will save you in the seventh. No one will. Anyways, and in Job, in Eov, there's another chapter that says how in 6 troubles he will save you, and in the 7th no harm will touch you. In famine he redeem you from death. Another proof. The Rabbeinu Bachaya always brings proof from the Torah that he doesn't make this up, that really God will protect you. These verses in Job also describe how God saves a man from all sorts of troubles. They are quoted as further proof that even the animals and inanimate objects will not harm a person who has bitachon. Okay? So that is the 5th reason of what happens when a person relies on God versus what happens when a person relies on his own power to save him or to bring him wealth. Are you ready for the 6th? Vashishi. Shebal hakimya eno batuach mehchalayim והמדווים שמערבבים עליו שמחתו באסחו ואינו מניחים אותו ליהנות ממה שיש לו ולא להסענג במה שהשיגה ידו. The 6th manner in which a person who has bitachon is superior to the alchemist. The alchemist is not protected from sickness and disease, which... So the 6th reason is that the alchemist is not protected from sickness and disease, which disturb his contentment with his wealth and prevent him from deriving benefit from his possessions. Similarly, they stop the alchemist from enjoying the wealth that he has amassed as a result of his toil. So over here it talks about someone who has chronic disease, who has diseases that come after he amassed a lot of wealth, and he can't enjoy his wealth because he's either weak or he's suffering, he's in pain. So it says an alchemist is not protected from these diseases. Now the question is someone who believes in God protected from diseases?
Not always.
Not at all. Not at all. But what's the difference? What's the difference between someone who's boteach b'Hashem, who believes in Hashem, or someone who puts his power in wealth and might? What is the difference? V'boteach b'Hashem batuach min hamadvim v'hachalayim אלא על דרך הכפרה או על הדרך התמורה, כמו שכתוב ויעפו נערים ויגעו ובחורים כשול ייכשלו. Conversely, a person who trusts in God is protected from disease and sickness, except for disease and sickness that he is subject to as a means of atonement or to increase his reward in the next world. So, no one is protected from diseases. There you can see that really good people who are very sick, who have chronic diseases, and you can see really bad people who are also sick, who have chronic diseases. What's the difference when you put your emunah, your bitachon, your trust in your own might, in your own strength, than when you put it in something meaningful, in something that's deep, in something that's holy, in something that's godly? What's the difference? Is that the sickness, the the way the sickness impacts the person will be completely different. So someone who puts his emunah in his own strength, when he's sick, that's it. He's like, I lost everything. I can't even enjoy my own wealth. I can't enjoy nothing. I'm in pain, and he's depressed, and the impact is so much stronger and destroys him so much more that when someone who has bitachon, he knows that everything that comes from Hashem is for the good. And not only that, he says that sickness for a person who has bitachon usually comes in order for atonement, or for he uses the word timura, which is to increase the reward. So we have to understand that the Alter Rebbe was trying to explain our impact in this world. He brought the example of the sun. The sun can move kilometers in the outer space, and in our world it only moves a little centimeter, right? Mm-hmm. So that example is the same of our little tiny actions we have in this world impacts huge things up above in the world. Every small actions we do, we don't need to do everything good. All we need to do is small little actions, small word of kindness, a few pennies in tzedakah. All these small action has a huge impact. So too, unfortunately, our small negative actions have huge impacts on the upper world. And sometimes, even if we do tshuva, in order to really remove that guk or that dirt that we did, someone goes through a sickness or goes through something negative that happens to them in order to be kapara, right? When we say kapara, is to remove, to go through a cleansing. Now, while knowing this, we also have to know that the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, said we should never give an answer to suffering. Suffering, if we try to understand suffering, then we will accept it, and we should not accept it. God does not want us to accept suffering, and we should always be asking God, enough. We suffered enough. We should never accept human suffering. That is not a thing from Torah. But at the same time, knowing that we don't accept human suffering, we should know that diseases or things that sometimes happen to us that are negative are for the good. Are for the good, is to bring us a cleansing, something that that is atoning for us that we did in the past. Also, there's another thing he brings. Not only is it for the good, but not only does it atone for the past, but for tzaddikim who don't need atone, right? Tzaddikim who are perfect, who don't need to have kapara, who are not dirty, who don't need to atone. There's a story of Rabbi Akiva. Well, no, actually it's the story of Moshe Rabbeinu, that God showed him the future generation. He was brought to the future, and he saw Rabbi Akiva, how he ended up his life. Do you know how Rabbi Akiva ended up his life? He was killed by the Romans, but in a really, really painful way. They took metal grate and they grated his flesh off while burning him. Really horrible. A lot of suffering. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, God, why? This is what Torah brings to. This is Torah, and this is his reward. And God said, silence. I want to say the right words. 1 minute. He says, what did God answer him? He says, shtok kach ala birtzono, which means silence. This is my will. But this over here, someone who explained, I forgot who's the commentary, he brought an explanation that God was also saying silence because through this physical pain, he will be elevated to my will, meaning he will be closer to me. It will bring him a bigger reward. Again, we're not trying to explain. We're not trying to explain or understand human suffering.
Quand on peut pas expliquer, on dit on peut pas comprendre.
Exactly, shtuk. be quiet.
Ta gueule, le remets pas en question.
So we're not trying to understand suffering,
Yeah.
but we have to believe that everything that God does
It's for the good.
is for the good, not only for the good, to bring us closer to Him and to bring something even more beautiful than was before. And this is only if you have bitachon. If you put your trust in your wealth, if you put your trust in your might, in your strength, in your whatever it is that you put your trust, when you're faced with a hardship, you're going to be broken. You're going to be done. But if someone who puts their trust in God, they're going to know that everything comes for a reason. And even if we don't accept human suffering, and we should never accept human suffering, even diseases, even the biggest pain is really for our good, is to bring us closer to Hashem, is to atone for something from the past.
Qu'est-ce qu'il a dit, le Rebbe, à ce sujet?
The Rebbe said that a person should never try to understand human suffering, because if we understand human suffering, then we would accept it. And Hashem does not want us to accept human suffering. We should always cry, Ad Masai, that's it, until when? Enough. So with that, we should end that we shouldn't accept any suffering around us, any people suffering around us, and we should experience revelation and understand why. Maybe revelation of Mashiach, where we understand, have a deeper meaning of why all this is happening to us, without accepting the suffering.
C'est ça.
Thank you for listening.